Hi there, it's tutorial Tracy today. I am going to share a tutorial with you. I have a cardigan, I'm going to show it to you in a second, that I knit somewhere between 12 and 14 years ago. And the problem is, I wasn't a very relaxed knitter back then. I was a very, I gripped everything very hard. And what I could never do was do a loose bind off. And the button band is the evidence that I have to show for that problem, and it needs fixing, and we're going to do that together now. So I hope you enjoy this, and maybe it will help you fix something in the future. Now, here it is. This is the cardigan. I knit this out of this yarn, and I have one skein left that I've had in my stash ever since, and thank God I do, because otherwise we would be in a lot more trouble. I think I can keep the button band. Yeah, it's not perfect here. I probably should have picked up more stitches, but I think if the bind off isn't as rigid, that will block out and it will be fine. So now, of course, there's a helicopter. Great. Or plane. Miraculously, this cardigan still kind of fits. So I really want to be able to wear it. I have 3 different options for fixing my problem of the bind off, or the button band in general, because wearing it like this is just impossible. So option number 1 would be to rip back the whole button band and redo the whole thing, which is probably the smartest option that I will not go for. Option number 2 is thread in the needle first and then undo the bind off, or option number 3, and that is what I will do, rip out the bind off and pick up the stitches in one go. Now, the first thing is, usually I bind off things from the right side of the knitting, but in this case, I didn't. I bound this off from the wrong side, because when you look at the V's, the V that is shaped is the direction that you bound off, and I bound off in this direction, which means that I bound off from the wrong side of my knitting. So I have to somehow get this opened up. I'm not sure yet how I will do it. I probably just snip the last stitch and hope for the best, and then it's bind off, because I have 3 ends here, but I don't know which one is the right one. So I might be able to find it though. Let's try just pulling a bit here. Oh, yeah, I'm not sure if that's gonna work, but I really hope it will. One of these must be the end, but yeah, I'm gonna get a pair of scissors, and then I'm gonna get you a bit closer, and we're going to do the pickup of all of those stitches, and we're gonna redo the bind off so that this is a wearable garment again. Okay, so I'm sitting down now. I've brought you closer, and now we're just gonna try again. I got a steel DPN, and now we're gonna just try and follow this one here and see which one of these will unravel and which one is the actual stitch. If I could unravel it from the beginning, that would make my life so much simpler. And this is it. This must be it. But of course I can't unravel it. Where do you go from here? Okay, I'm just gonna snip this off. And if it was a stitch, I'm gonna cry. Are you ready? It's not a stitch. Okay, let's just do it. Oh, okay. Nothing unravels. Oh, it was the end. Yes. Okay, now that makes life easier to find out which one it is here. Nein, Gizmo. Okay, here it is. This is the end. Ta-ta! That is perfect. Now, let's get all of the things we don't need out of the way. I'm gonna have to turn this around because I'm now going to have to... Also, I have a very short cable in here. I have no clue why. I probably should get a longer one, right? I mean, It's a whole button band. I cannot squeeze this on here. Okay, problem solved. I put in a cable connector and made it longer. Now, let's get back to the actual problem. Here, I need to find out where this is going to. I think that's the right one. Yes. And we're off. Perfect. Now, first stitch is live over here. And I'm going to now flip it around. So I'm going to pull the yarn out with my left hand, and with my right hand, before I pull, I will insert the needle into the stitch, because that makes life simpler, you know, when you insert the needle first and then pull the stitch free. And I'm going to insert the needle into every stitch from the back to the front, because that way they will be on the needle in the right direction already to be knit off again. And that I'm gonna do for all of these, all of the stitches. And then we can do another bind off. I really should have picked up another stitch down here, shouldn't I? But I'm gonna leave it like that. Okay, now I have unpicked the whole bind off, and I think I can leave the button band. You know, I should have done one more stitch on either side when I picked up, but I think ultimately it is going to be okay if I bind off now very loosely, and that is what we're going to do. Okay, now let's get started. I have an edge stitch here that I haven't done in this way in 10 years, so I have to do it like that. And now let's get started with a loose, nice and loose bind off, and I hope that that will fix my whole problem. And yes, I know I do weird knit stitches, but I'm left-handed, and no one could teach me how to knit with my left hand, you know. So I had to learn to knit right-handed, but my right hand just doesn't let itself be controlled in the way that I would. So I need a bit of help from my index finger. But that's not the point. The point is here, fixing this cardigan. Once I am done with this bind off, I will give this a wash and block, because this has been in a corner of my wardrobe and then in the fixing basket for several years now, because, you know, this half hour of work I just didn't want to do. But I have decided it's finally time to do it, and it's ultimately a quick fix, you know. I should have done this years ago, but isn't that the same for all of us? Things like this we just don't want to do, and then it just never happens. Okay, now let's see. This is a nice and stretchy bind off. I like this. So I'm going to continue binding off, and then we're going to take a look again at the finished cardigan. So I just wanted to show you, I have that many stitches left to bind off, and I just ran out of my original bind off yarn. So the second time go around is a lot looser, and I'm really happy. Okay, I'm really sorry, there's a lot of background noise because my neighbor just started mowing his lawn, but I wanted to show you how I attach a new yarn with the bind off. So I'm gonna leave this new yarn hanging in here in the front, because that's the inside of my jacket, and I'm going to knit one stitch with both of my yarns together, and I'm gonna drop the second yarn as well, and then I'm gonna bind off my next two stitches. And this one here is a bit thicker now, but once you weave in those ends, you can't even tell. You know, you can just pull these close, and that's it. That's how I attach the new yarn. Okay, so here it is. It looks weird right now because I used the yarn that has been knit up for a long time. And this here, yeah, I should have picked up another stitch when I did it, but I didn't, so I'm gonna block it out. But now I can block it out, and I think it's going to be fine in the end. And that is it. That is my new and improved cardigan. And I really hope that you never have to do this, but if you do, I hope my tutorial will help you a little bit. And if you enjoyed this tutorial and want to see more things like this, check out my Patreon. I do have a lot of tutorials for spinning and baking over there. And there's a lot of knitting stuff to come, so please go over, check it out, and I hope you have a wonderful time. Bye.